we initiate chaos. Theory guarantees that we'll play like lightning shots, sounding like thunder. For every time in the face that it hits us, we're faster. Well, they should know by now. They see the world keeps trying to shake us. It only wakes us. The pendulum swings. The pendulum swings. It's in a beautiful darkness. Napoleon another. It's full steam ahead. Full steam ahead. All about the Petty Express. Misdirected from the start. It's a runaway train. I come a freight train. I come a freight train. In a beautiful darkness, the Petty Express. In a beautiful darkness.
Hey, you guys, it's Mo, your conductress of Snark on the Petty Express, where we watch trials and deal with them with dark humor, puppy and kitten breaks, and general cursey words sometimes. So welcome, welcome. Thank you, Wolfram, for being an awesome mod. And we are on the Shanda Vander Ark case. This is not everyone's jam. I do understand that it involves just god-awful behavior by Shanda and her son Paul towards an innocent, beautiful, loving young man, not little boy. And we are currently at the part of the trial. This is not a long case. This is maybe 3 or 4 days in total. But we are at the part where Shanda and Paul, her son, so her strong arm, her kind of muscle in this torture, talked to each other and kind of coordinated their mistreatment of Timothy. And these are copious text messages. Again, this was more of a full-time job to Shanda than her actual job. I mean, you can see how thick the stack is of these text messages that they're going to go through. And again, we do know that Shanda is trying to, work on getting a, new trial, trying to get out of these charges. I don't think it's going to happen, but again, she does have legal and law experience, so she does know how to play the game a little better than, other people. But let's get into this. I've boosted and put on closed caption, so hopefully we can get into this. But we are in some deep stuff, so if you guys need a puppy kitten break, let me know. But we are going to, pull on out of the station and get the, Petty Express just rambling on as we do.
Before you go, I should be home in probably right around 10 minutes.
KK.
I am not going to pull in the garage. You will need to come out the front door and lock it real quick.
Okay. Are you here?
Not yet.
KK.
Did you check on him?
Yes.
Notice how he had the strength to sink down like that?
Right?
Still staring?
Yep.
He apparently decided to go big or go home today. Just beyond ridiculous.
I have a break there, and that break occurs at what time on Saturday?
At 5:56 p.m. Then our next one starts on July 5 at 11:49 p.m.
Please set your alarm for 6 a.m. I ended up dragging him back to his small room because I wasn't going to risk him having access to the tub or other things overnight.
Now, to put this in perspective, excuse me, this is the last night of Timothy's life. This is the last night after 8 hours in an ice bath wherein he is already dangerously emaciated. When his body has started cannibalizing, it's run out of fat, so now it's going to tendons, to muscles, to, internal organs, his visceral body fat. So there is kind of a protective fat padding around your organs, and it is required to kind of pad and protect. It shouldn't be too much. I'm not a doctorologist. Check out your, vital fat stores. I have no wisdom there. But this is the last night of his life. And she is still, he's faking being weak. He's faking doing this and that. Look at how, quickly he woke up. I dragged him. And they have footage. Again, this heifer had security cameras everywhere. And they did show, and again, I have been beyond impressed with this judge and prosecutor in what they didn't allow us streamers or us viewers to see. because there was footage shown of Shanda literally dragging Timothy back to that closet with just a tarp and an empty box and cameras all over that smelled like, bodily waste, put him in there, and then made fun of his breathing and called him stupid. It is beyond horrifying. And the fact that she, thinks she is going to get away with this and that she knows better, that she's going to use some loophole, is just maddening. But I did want to put into context that that's one of the last, moments of his life. And she's saying that he's faking, this isn't real. It's just beyond heartbreaking that these were the last moments that Timothy had. And it wasn't with someone that loved and cared for him. It was someone who told him that he was breathing like a dummy through his mouth and closed his mouth because, he can breathe through his nose. Again, this woman should be under the prison, in my opinion, allegedly in Minecraft, but I don't have that power and probably shouldn't because I would go full Sith Lord.
He's still trying to be stupid, but I will tell you more tomorrow while I take you to work, describing how many different ways I prove that he's still faking. He's still doing it though. It's beyond ridiculous.
And we have a break, and then our next text is on July 6th at 6:09 a.m.
Time to get up and please check on Timothy on your way upstairs. Question mark, question mark, question mark.
That includes the text messages, and again, for the record, that is People's Exhibit 36, previously admitted, Judge. All right.
And again, I do want to say this because I say this often, and we all know there's good cops and bad cops. There's a-holes everywhere, as I like to say. But these first responders that go through, these, prosecutors that have to, see the unfiltered photos of the cruelty that parents can inflict on their own children. We need to get mental health for them. We need to give them tools and a way to deal with these stressors, this trauma, having to see the monstrous side of humanity, because it stays with them and it scars your soul. I can't imagine this not weighing heavily on anyone affected. I mean, this was the worst case that they have seen ever. And without much further ado, because I want to get to the prosecutor taking names and kicking ass with Shanda, which is towards the end of the trial, so we do need to keep going. But I do always like to take the time to thank first responders. Monstrous situations, monstrous scenes, and offer help, comfort, and, justice when it's necessary.
I think we're, just let the mom can step down and stand at this point.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Detective Oaksma?
I do have just a couple more questions, Judge, and
Okay.
just for as discreet as possible about this, but there are a couple more photographs that I need Lieutenant Oaksma that I did.
Okay.
Well, let me ask a couple of questions before I do that. Lieutenant, you just read a series of text messages. I don't want to talk about all of them, obviously, but let's just talk about the text messages from July 5th. And there are multiple references to cold water and the bath. Was that your understanding of those text messages?
That's correct.
And that was, again, July 5th was literally the day before Timothy was discovered early the next morning to be deceased. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the last message from Ms. Vander Ark indicated that at around 11:30 or so, she dragged him out of there and put him in the small room.
That's correct.
Again, the small room, from your understanding, is what?
The closet in the basement next to his bed.
Now, these are very difficult photos. I know you've had an opportunity to see these before, but for the record, these are people's 33, 34, and 35, starting with people's 33. If you could identify that photograph for the jury.
That is the deceased Timothy Ferguson lying on the floor of the bottom level of the basement.
And
Shanda doesn't realize, excuse me, how incredibly lucky she is that she got a judge and a prosecutor who wanted to honor Timothy as the little boy that he was before he got into Shanda's clutches. Because these photos could have been plastered everywhere. These photos could have been used to break the heart of everyone. I mean, this story is already heartbreaking, but they could have used these photos to pull on the heartstrings of the jury to, really, really push the scales of justice and emotionally manipulate and not really manipulate, but absolutely highlight, excuse me, the real horrors that Timothy went through. But instead, the judge and the prosecutor, and again, I don't know how much of it was the judge, I don't know how much of it was the prosecutor, but they have both agreed, and the defense has also agreed, to not splash these pictures around. I'm sure you can find them on the interwebs. I don't have any desire to find them. I choose to remember Timothy as, a young, loving, carefree boy who saw and experienced the world in a way that's different than me, in a way I couldn't maybe process, but in his own special and unique way, and who deserved to have just a life, just to be alive and experience the everyday miracle of, a rainbow after a thunderstorm, or finding, a bunch of shorts on clearance right at back to school time. That is a miracle. I have 6 children. Okay. I still claim it as a miracle. That being said, he should still be here.
Did that appear to be roughly the same condition in which you observed Timothy Ferguson when you were at the residence on July 6th of this year?
Yes,
And he's fully clothed in that picture, is that correct?
that's correct.
What's he actually wearing for the record?
He's wearing a black sweatshirt and blue jeans.
And again, that you had occasion to observe Timothy roughly in that condition when you were present, is that correct?
That's correct.
People's Exhibit 34.
This is a photograph of the deceased, Timothy Ferguson, lying on the floor with his sweatshirt pulled up, exposing his chest area.
And People's 35.
This is a photograph of the deceased, Timothy Ferguson, his back with his sweatshirt pulled up, exposing his spine and shoulder blades.
And all 3 of these photos were taken while he was on the floor of the basement area of that home, is that correct?
Correct, at the scene of the incident.
We'll just take a moment and let the jury have an opportunity to review those photographs.
Now, pay close attention because, again, she has had access to these photographs. There is video evidence. The prosecutor was willing to pull it out, where she is thumbing through these photos in past hearings. Now, pay close attention to how nonchalant, how not bothered she is here, because when she gets on the stand, she is going to pretend to upchuck because she is so greatly distressed. I mean, she saw the pictures of how skinny he was on her little Apple Watch, but, she didn't get the full horrors of it until right on the stand when she was bombing, spectacularly. Also, if you are new to the case, the fact that Timothy was clothed in the sweatshirt and the jeans were something coordinated between Shanda and Paul prior to calling 911 to hide and sort of camouflage the fact that he was basically emaciated to sell the story that, according to Shanda, they tried to lie to the police about that, Timothy had been on a 3-week hunger strike, and this was all, Mr. Mo's going to Lowe's. The saga of the toilet that broke the subflooring continues. So there you go with that. But basically, they put these clothes on to try to mislead police officers and allege that this was all Timothy's doing. He had gone on a hunger strike because of her husband, Adam, having a severe, I think, either stroke or seizure that required him to move out of the house and receive more intensive care, that Timothy had done this prior to, that this was an established behavior that he had, self, controlling his food or not, eating. So this was all a ruse. He was nude with an adult diaper on for most of the night. So again, as someone who is now extremely sensitive to cold, this sounds torturous. I cannot explain to you how how incredibly torturous, painful beyond all recognition it is to be intensely, bone numbingly, down to the bone, cold and not able to get warm, to have blankets on you, to have, heating pads on you and not be able to get warm. It is a special kind of hell to do that. To do that to a fellow human. Now, mine is my nervous system being all wonky. This is a mother who chose to do this to her child. I just can't get it. I won't get it. And as I always say, evil doesn't need a reason. It's just going to evil. And sometimes there is no reason other than evil, in my personal opinion. We are going to bump it up to 1.25, but let me know if that's too fast for you guys. And I do feel a special sympathy for her lawyer. This is not a case that it would be easy to present. No one, he is there to make sure her constitutional rights are not violated. He's not there to agree with any of the circumstances or decisions that she made in her life that led her to being, the Land O'Lakes girl of crime. And I appreciate and hope that also the jurors got mental health, counseling extended to them. Again, to get a child case was a very big fear of mine when I got jury duty, because I don't know how I could handle the images and the testimony that you would have to hear.
Quick clarification questions. And for the record, the text messages that you have just read are the portion that you have just read is contained in this binder, People's Exhibit number 36. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
And this represented excerpts of text messages, again, that you and Detective Ahm read between the defendant and Paul Ferguson from February to roughly the day that Timothy was found deceased. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, there's a second binder. This is People's Exhibit number 37, much larger binder containing more pages here. This contains, what is your understanding that this contains, that we have gone through?
Further text messages between the defendant and her son, Paul Ferguson, regarding Timothy.
And that is People's Exhibit number 37 for clarification's sake, and we're not reading that entire portion. That's substantially larger, but these are just text messages between Paul Ferguson and Shanda Vander Ark regarding Timothy Ferguson. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, they texted all the premeditation and collusion.
All right, thank you, Mr. Roberts. Mr. Johnson, any cross-examination?
Thank you. You ready, Lieutenant?
It is, but it sometimes does not actually capture. See, so none of what's being said right now is that, so the closed caption's not synced up.
Your testimony this morning, you were shown a number of photographs, and I have photograph number 15. May I approach, Your Honor? Okay. And you described that as a photograph of the interior of the pantry, is that correct?
Correct.
And there weren't any locks on that particular door, were there?
Not that I observed.
And there's foodstuffs on that in the pantry as well, correct?
Yes.
For the record, what sorts of foods do you see there? Cereals?
Yep.
Okay, here's the problem. There could have been loads of food left out everywhere, a steaming Big Mac right on the counter left there. Timothy was forced to upchuck a bun of a leftover hamburger that he found laying out and punished immensely for the crime, the, absolute, terrible offense of trying to make sure he didn't die of starvation. So the fact that there were no locks on the pantry means nothing, because if Timothy knew that he was going to get punished, that he was not going to get away with it, you could have had no locks on anything and he still wouldn't have taken it. Again, this is such a straw man, because the training that Timothy had had is he gets in trouble and he gets fed horrible things if he takes food. So she didn't need the locks by the end. He could barely go up and down the stairs. He was terrified. The punishment escalated and escalated. You are not going to try to, steal food that's left out if you're terrified. If someone bigger than you is going to yell and run after you and make you run up and down stairs, if you're going to be put in stress positions, if you're going to be given an ice bath. And again, there are not words to explain the soul-sucking pain, that deep, deep cold, even if it's nerve pain cold, that it's hell. It is hell, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone, especially a young boy who, by all accounts, would have thrived in another situation where he was respected and his preoccupations were given, outlets and stimulus, and he could have interacted with other people. It's just heartbreaking on all accounts. But I am sorry that the closed captioning is messed up. Some days it's good, and then some days it's completely off kilter with this case.
Crackers, soup, cereal, some salad dressing, bread, maybe some Chex Mix, ramen noodles, large variety of options.
Thank you. Secondly, and I just want to talk to you about that alarm that you came back and it wasn't there on the door. You know the one I'm talking about?
On the small room door, yes.
Yes, on the small room door, there's an alarm, and when you folks came back, was it for the first, when you came back for the first search warrant or the second one? It wasn't there.
It was missing when we arrived for the second search warrant.
Okay, so the first search warrant is there, second one it is not, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and in between those two times, all the police officers left the home, and there were just the residents of that home remained, is that correct?
After our execution of the first search warrant, all the police officers left the home.
Okay, look, and we know this because we've lived with this thing, but let's make sure we're clear. You're in the home, the officers are in the home, correct?
Yes,
The area in question, the basement area, is secured by another police officer, correct?
yes,
And while you're still there, a search warrant is received, correct? You're given permission to search the home.
yes. While we were there, we
Yes.
obtained a search warrant.
So there was no time in between your initial arrival and the first search warrant, when the police weren't in that home.
Correct.
Okay, so then after the first search warrant, you departed the home, correct?
Correct.
And then the second search warrant, you came back.
That's correct.
Okay.
Sir, you're just pointing out all the facts that lead me to believe that Shanda tried to, cover up the existence of her crime. Where are you going with this? Are you working for the state now?
Now, and in between the first and second one, there were no police officers there.
That's correct.
When were the cameras seized?
The cameras
The
were
cameras,
seized.
the video cameras? If they were.
I believe they were seized on the second search warrant.
Okay, and let me make sure I'm correct. When I say seized, I mean taken by the police.
Yeah, pursuant to the search warrant.
And were there any of the cameras, from your recollection of the scene and the evidence, were any of the video cameras?
Denise asks, have I tried using a small amount of cayenne pepper on my feet to increase heat production? I might try that. I am really sensitive on my feet, so I might have to do that on very gingerly. I've noticed that I can't use like normal Bengay giggity. The menthol is too cooling and it bothers me, which is kind of upsetting because I used to love, the icy hot. So anything with menthol really bothers me, but I'm willing to try just about anything. I have never been, a person susceptible to cold until I got my nerve issue. And I don't know how y'all do it. I'm wearing a sweater and it's 80 degrees. So I don't know how women have survived this long because holy fazoli's, this is not my jam, y'all.
Removed and unavailable for that second search warrant? As far as you know.
As far as I know, there were cameras that remained. Can't
Okay.
say if any were taken because I wouldn't know if they were gone.
Okay. But you notice this one was gone. The one in the bedroom, the alarm was gone.
The alarm, yes, the alarm was gone.
Okay, you noticed the alarm was gone, correct?
Yes,
But you didn't notice if any of the other cameras were gone, is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay, and were there
But we did notice because we saw pictures of the first, pictures around the basement when they received the first search warrant. And there was a mobile camera in the bathroom downstairs to watch Timothy as he was given an ice bath. That was removed along with, I think, something else. I believe it might have been zip ties from that bathroom in the intervening time between the, police leaving and them coming back for a second search warrant. Again, I don't know where this defense attorney is going because he's kind of laying out all the factors that make you really, really suspect that Shanda tampered with evidence as they were gone. So I'm kind of confused where he's going with this.
pictures taken before you left the first time before you left the house the first time and then came back the second time? Were there photographs taken?
There were photographs taken on both search warrants, yes.
Okay, so when you compared the two photographs, were any of the video cameras missing from the first search warrant to the second one?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so the only one missing is the alarm, as far as you know.
Yes,
Okay, and we're talking about an alarm, correct? An alarm, door opens, alarm goes off.
correct.
How would you, what type,
Just
how would
a-
you term that type of device? An alarm?
Just a door alarm?
A door alarm,
Entry
fine.
alarm?
We'll use door alarm, because I may, okay. So a door alarm was taken, was missing.
Correct.
As far as you know, did that alarm, that door alarm, have any video capability?
Not that I have no idea.
Okay, you have no idea. And you didn't see it in the photographs you have, you don't see a hole for a camera, correct?
I didn't suspect it of being able to take video.
Okay. And during the course between the first and second visits by the police, there were two adults in that house, is that correct?
I don't know who was in the home while we were not there.
Okay, all right. So there could have been even other people in there, correct? As
That
far
would
as you
make-
know.
As far as I know, yes.
I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. And read
So it was the one-armed man?
Lieutenant, Mr. Johnson was asking you about the photo pantry, and it did not appear that there was an alarm on the pantry, is that correct?
That's correct.
And there was food inside the pantry, correct?
That's correct.
I'm going to ask you to reread the section of, oh, you have the,
Yep,
there,
I
so I'll
still
just
have
reference the page for you. Excellent. Turn to page 5093.
5093?
Yes.
Again,
It's from May 26th of
5,903 text messages.
Okay.
All right, and then starting with that second text, if you could read that portion for the jury again.
This is from the defendant to Paul Ferguson. Almost freaking caught him. I want all food in the fridge, freezer, or pantry, and those locked.
And then what's Paul's response to that?
It is. He just pulled the pantry door lock.
And the response to that is?
What do you mean he just pulled it? Did he take it off?
And Paul's response?
Yes, the part that attaches to the wall is dangling right now due to sticky loss.
And finally, her response?
Okay, get another one on it right away. Last I saw, they were on the floor in a bag in my room.
So at least in that text exchange, Ms. Vander Ark is referring, and Paul is referring to the fact that Timothy has ripped the alarms off of the pantry door, correct?
That's my understanding.
But her insistence was that all the food in the pantry, the freezer, and the fridge be locked away.
Yes,
And that was in April of 2022.
that's correct.
Mr. Johnson was also asking you about the alarm being removed from the door lock and whether or not any cameras were seized. You did seize a number of cameras from that residence, is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you attempt to obtain any footage from those cameras, either yourself or other detectives associated with the case?
Yes.
And with the exception of a memory card in one of those, were you able to retrieve any footage from those cameras?
No.
Can you explain to the jury why not?
Many of those cameras did not have their own storage capabilities. They were, they utilized a cloud service to view. You could view it on your phone through a camera app. And there were no way that we could recover any of those video files without access to the cloud services, which we didn't know.
But again, none of the cameras, I believe there might have been one camera that had some internal storage. The rest of the cameras did not have any internal type of storage device on them that you could have pulled a memory card, a flash drive, or anything like that and viewed the footage. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And again, some of those cameras at least may have been left for Ms. Vander Ark or anybody else that was inside the residence after the execution of the first search warrant.
That's correct.
Any further questions for this witness?
Any additional questions?
If I may, based on, okay.
You may.
Lieutenant, you just read an excerpt from the emails from my client to her son Paul, correct?
Text
Correct?
Text
messages.
messages, yes.
Okay, thank you. Text messages. And those were in April, correct?
Correct, April.
And based on what I'm hearing from your testimony, it sounds like my client is instructing Paul to put another lock on that door. Is that pantry door?
That's my understanding of the messages, yes.
When did the new lock go on?
I cannot say.
Yeah. Was there a lock on there when the police got there?
I did not observe a lock.
So we don't know if a new lock was ever put on, do we?
I do not know.
Now, another thing to add to kind of your general knowledge of this case, there is a time disconnect between, and we'll see this because they were eventually able to get all the cloud recordings, which is why we know that she did drag him into that small closet and did, insult him as the last words he heard before he passed away. Again, there is a special place in Hades, and I hope she gets the little Nicky treatment every day. If you've ever watched that movie, you're welcome. I think I'm one of 5 people that watched Little Nicky. That being said, I mean, we have the evidence. So it's not a whodunit, but it's also just the escalation of all this. The fact that there was a prolonged period between when they discovered that Timothy was no longer alive and when they called 911. So as they're talking about this hunger strike and coming up with this narrative of Timothy being on a hunger strike, it's very possible, and again, this is conjecture, speculation, that she removed, the lock from the pantry to say, yes, he wasn't able to go into the freezer, but he always had access to, non-perishable pantry items. It's not a stretch of the imagination to think that that would be something that would be top of mind for a person who knows, has a more intimate knowledge of how this case is going to be investigated, how it's going to be prosecuted. It's not a stretch of the imagination that she would have gone ahead and altered some of the house's appearance before she let, officials in, first responders.
Know that.
Thank you.
But you do know from the text message where Ms. Vander Ark told Paul that extra locks were, right?
Yes.
In her bedroom.
Yeah, apparently she had extra locks available in a bag in the floor of her bedroom.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Mr. Johnson?
Nothing further.
I believe we do have some jury questions for this witness. Mr. Weaver, can you retrieve those?
Are we going to review those with you?
Yeah, we're going to go over to as soon as we get up here.
And I really like the localities that allow juries to ask questions. So the process of this is that both sides, the defense and the state, are going to look at the juror questions. They're going to go over and see if they, pertain to this witness, if they're relevant to, this witness, if they're allowed to be asked. The judge will then read the question to the witness, and the state and the defense can ask additional questions based on the juror questions. But I do like the localities that allow this. So Indiana is one. I know Michigan is one. I believe Arizona is also one. So I do like the states that do this. I think that there are things that maybe lawyers and witnesses miss, especially expert witnesses, because this is their everyday bread and butter. And it does give you kind of an insight into communicating more effectively with lay people as far as when you're a lawyer. Because some points that you think you're making quite clearly legally might be, speaking Greek to the jury. So it is kind of good to see an indication of if the jury's following along with either the state or the defense and, paying attention, but also, kind of their thought process. You can kind of, find maybe the juror that has a chemistry background or a medical background because of some of the questions that they ask. So it's interesting to me. I'm a kind of nerdy nerd. So it's, all it's all interesting to me, but I'm an inside cat people watcher, so I like to see how people form their perspectives and things like that. And jury questions is a good way to do that.
It says cameras question mark. Where is the screen to see what happens on said cameras? If you know.
As far as I'm aware, the cameras, they didn't have screens available to them. It was, like I said before, they were all, a lot of them were webcams that you could view live time from your personal device, be it a tablet, cell phone. So it would be, if you had access to the cloud services, you could view the cameras.
Okay. Second question, how many zip ties are missing from the bag?
That's a very good question, which I wish I could provide you with an answer with. I unfortunately never counted the zip ties in the bag.
Okay. Third question, how long does the ice maker take to make the ice?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Who had the keys to the shackles?
One of the photographs we showed that had keys on it, there were handcuff keys on that key ring. So that did include some of the handcuff keys. I don't know if there were any other keys throughout the home, but those are the ones I found.
Shanda, your chariot awaits.
There were two additional questions. One had already been asked, and the additional one, it was determined by the court to ask for speculation by this particular witness. So court will not ask those two. Mr. Roberts, any follow-up questions to those questions?
Just briefly, Your Honor, and I guess I'll start with the key question. You said that the keys that you discovered that we have a photograph of does contain a handcuff key, is that correct?
Correct.
And those were located inside the residence?
That's correct.
Were they located on any particular person or just in the residence?
When I photographed them, I believe they were on top of the chest freezer. So I did not locate them on anybody. When I photographed them, they were just on the freezer.
All right. Now, if you could turn on your exhibit to page 4227, we'll briefly reread a section for the jury. It might clarify some of the question about the zip ties.
If you're gonna crime, I don't know who needs to hear this, and I don't approve of crime, but I'm not your mom and I'm not paying your bills, so I really can't tell you what to do. But if you're going to crime, don't text about your crime. Don't write it down. Don't get a new life insurance for the hubby you're gonna, knock off. Maybe don't be a monstrous thunder cow on text and on video when you're unaliving your son. I don't know. These are things that you would think a, really, really smart, law prodigy would know. But no, apparently Shanda forgot that whole self-snitching course.
Okay. If you could start with, I think you can start with the second text messages, probably. The first one from the defendant.
So how has he been disobedient?
Yeah, and then if you just read through to the breakdown of those sections.
He just won't listen or does something. I didn't tell him he could. He just tried, claiming his zip cuffs were too tight when I couldn't even tighten them to where there's no room for his wrists. Leave them as they are, and I will check them when I get home, and you can tell him that. And if he lied about it, or lied about that, he gets himself in even more trouble. And Paul, okay, and I already checked because I knew they were tightened. If they were tightened, it was his doing. The defendant, you know what? We will start cutting off the ends once they are tight, and so we can't do that. Defendant, he can't do that. Siri. And Paul Ferguson, okay.
And this text exchange takes place when?
On March the 4th in the evening.
So this is 4 months prior to Timothy's death?
That's correct.
Mr. Johnson, any follow-up questions on this? Jury
Thank
question?
you. Lieutenant, you mentioned that you found a key ring with a handcuff key attached to it, is that correct?
I didn't find them, I photographed them, but they were found, yes.
Okay, I'm confused. I heard these devices described as leg cuffs, and are they leg cuffs or handcuffs? How would you describe it?
I would refer to them as leg shackles.
Leg
They're
shackles.
a larger diameter, designed to go around somebody's ankles with a longer chain so that they can walk, shuffling walk.
Would a handcuff key that you found on the key ring operate leg shackles?
Yes.
Okay.
I know these are the type of questions that I would ask if I don't know anything, but again, we agreed on English. So, yes, cuff keys are going to work on both and leg shackle keys, but they've already been through this. This is why I got in so much trouble with school because they've already talked about how it's kind of a universal key for handcuffs and shackles. They don't differentiate, but the shackles have, like he said, a larger diameter and, longer chain. So I feasibly they could have been used as handcuffs. I don't know. These questions are just not the greatest. But again, this case, there really is no defense. What are you going to do? He is doing his best with what he has.
As far as I'm aware, they all use the same type of handcuff key that all we use as the police officers.
Are the keys differentiated? In other words, like my house key is different from my neighbor's house key, or will one key fit all?
One handcuff key would fit all. They're all the same. That way officers can unlock other officers' handcuffs. They're not specific to a certain pair of cuffs.
But you found them but they were found on a countertop and not on a person, is that correct?
When I photographed them, I believe they were on the top of the chest freezer.
Okay. Did you seize those keys? Did you see the keys and the key ring? Was those seized as evidence?
They were not.
All right. Thank you.
Any follow-up, Mr. Roberts? May this witness be excused, Mr. Roberts?
Or he's my investigating
Oh,
officer.
stand down but not excused? Okay. All right. Thank you, Detective. Mr. Roberts, you can call your next witness.
The next witness is Paul Gabriel. He should be, I believe, Paul Ferguson. I apologize. Paul Ferguson, I believe he's in the back. I don't know if you want to take a break now. This would be the last witness for the day, I will say that, so we could take a break
Now-
and then just go through Mr.
I will say before you see Paul Ferguson, he is a very awkward sort of fellow. He doesn't really make eye contact, seems very uncomfortable, to the point that people were writing letters at his sentencing, trying to get him, leniency. Again, don't write letters to judges to cases you have no connection with because you saw something on stream or a stream. He's very, very awkward, and off-putting.
10FC, people.
I feel like, and this is my personal opinion, I have watched this testimony multiple times from different channels, just getting different perspectives on it. And I will say that I think at the end of Paul's testimony, we're going to find that he was not the mastermind, but he was capable of just as much evil as Shanda. I don't excuse any of his behaviors because regardless if he is socially awkward, a weird inside cat who just likes Legos, and maybe had a traumatic childhood, the BS in your past never gives you an excuse to become, the purveyor of abuse later. The, things that you suffered never excuse the suffering you dish out to other people. So that's my opinion, but many people have mixed opinions on Paul. Some people feel like he has, undiagnosed mental health issues that caused him to be more susceptible to Shanda, that Shanda, brainwashed and coerced him. But I think, just from the text messages and his testimony, you will realize that he had a very short fuse with, with Timothy. And that was not something that, Shanda had to spark in him. He was always on a short fuse and had a, very explosive temper with Timothy. So It is very interesting that, people can watch the same trial and come up with two very different perspectives on witnesses. I'm not telling you what to think. Again, not your mom, not paying your bills, but it will be interesting to see what you guys think after his testimony. He is awkward, he is halting, but he does give a rather stark testimony of all the things that Shanda and he did to Timothy.
State of Michigan versus Shanda Vander Ark. The record should reflect that the jury is secure in the jury room.
I believe that at the time of the incident, Paul was 18 or 19, either just getting ready to turn 19 or had just turned 19. So there was about a 4-year age difference between them because Timothy had just turned 15. And I believe had his birthday came around during this trial. What would have been his 16th birthday?
Mr. Paul Ferguson is present in the courtroom, has not been sworn in yet. Mr. Ferguson, you have an attorney which is present here today, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Elton, as I indicated before, Mr. Ellen Brady is sitting in the front row. Mr. Ellen Brady, you certainly can come up and sit beyond the bar if you wish to do so during his testimony. If you wish to do so, it's up to you.
If Mr. Ferguson is fine, I'm fine here. It appears that our seating is full.
Okay. Mr. Ferguson, I want to advise.
And the reason they're going through this is because Paul did sign a plea agreement of sorts. Basically, he agreed to testify against his mother. And the prosecution stated that they would not basically ask for anything higher than, whatever the judge decided. So they weren't going to try to throw the book at him, but he still was going to be punished. Now, he got a very severe sentence, as he should have, for his participation and, his neglect to get Timothy any help in this situation. But the reason they're taking their time with him and asking for his counsel to be there is because there was an agreement between the state and, Paul. So the judge wants to make very sure that everything, is procedurally correct, that Paul understands, what he's getting into by testifying and basically admitting to his part in these crimes. Howdy, JKD Buck. Welcome, welcome.
You do have a right, a Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, which means you cannot be compelled to testify against yourself. My understanding is that potentially you could testify to things that could potentially criminally inculpate you, basically get you in trouble, essentially, for lack of a better term. So, implicate you in crimes. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you've had an opportunity to discuss your testimony today with your lawyer, Mr.
Yes,
Elton
sir.
Brady, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, and knowing you have a right to not testify, do you wish to still testify today?
Yes, sir.
All right, can you please raise your right hand? Oh, no, we need the jury out here.
Your Honor, I do
Yes.
want to note for the record that my understanding is people are offering an agreement to Mr. Ferguson that none of his testimony today will be used against him in trial, unless he was to testify counter to his testimony today.
Is that correct, Mr. Robert?
That's correct, Your Honor. Actually, the full extent of the agreement is that we would also inform the sentencing judge of the nature of his cooperation in exchange for his full cooperation and testimony today. So we anticipate there would be a sentencing benefit for Mr. Ferguson. I believe that's his expectation as well. We'll place that on the record for the jury as well.
Okay, is that your understanding, Mr. Ferguson?
Yes, sir.
Now, I need you to understand, although there has been a suggestion that there is and I'm certainly you were hoping to get a better sentencing, so basically some consideration at sentencing. I have not made any obligations whatsoever to take your testimony or cooperation into consideration. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
And still knowing that, you still wish to testify today. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Anything before we bring the jury out, Mr. Roberts? No. Mr. Johnson?
No, sir.
All right, please rise.
And this jury takes like forever and a day to get seated.
The
Jury is now present in the courtroom. Mr. Roberts, you can call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. My next witness is already in the witness chair, and that is Paul Ferguson.
All right, Mr. Ferguson, can you please rise and raise your right hand as best you can? In this matter now pending, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
All right, you put your hand down, grab a seat. Please state your name for the record, spelling your first name and last.
And before we get going much further, I do want you guys to really pay attention because when we get to sentencing, the judge made very clear, and it will be the same judge, that he is under no obligation to listen to, the state recommending a lesser time period. And this judge rightly, I think, measured the behavior, the pattern of behavior, and the facts in this case, and some of the mental health diagnostics that were done on Paul while he was in, the correctional facilities, and realized that he is still a danger. We will get into sentencing, but this judge threw the book at him, and he did make very clear, like, hey, you signed something with the state prosecutor. You didn't sign anything with me. Like I said, I really like this judge. I'd have thrown the book at him too. So no shame, no game.
Paul Ferguson, Paulferguson.
Mr. Ferguson, you are testifying here today, and is it your understanding that you do have an agreement with the Muskegon County Prosecutor's Office in exchange for your testimony today against your mother, the defendant in this case, Shanda Vander Ark?
Yes, sir.
And is it your understanding that as part of that agreement, the people have agreed that none of your testimony today would be used against you should you exercise your right to have a trial in the pending criminal matter against you?
Yes, sir.
And is it also your understanding that in exchange for your testimony today, you understand that the prosecutor's office will make representations to the judge that oversees your case if such time is reached that you are sentenced in that matter, and that you hope to get some sentencing benefit as a result of your testimony today?
Yes, sir.
And is that in exchange for your truthful testimony today?
Yes, sir.
Are you aware of any other promises in regards to your testimony today?
No, sir.
And and for clarity's sake, you are also charged in this matter involving the death of your brother. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And what charges it brought against you at this point?
Child abuse, first degree.
And what do you understand the potential maximum penalty for? Well, you know what? Strike that. I won't ask that question. And you are prepared to testify today. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you understand that your attorney that represents you in your pending criminal matter is present in the courtroom. That's Mr. Eldon Brady. And if at any time you need to ask him any questions or take a break, you just let us know. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, Mr. Ferguson, I'd like to start by just talking a little bit about your home in Norton Shores at the time that your brother passed away. And so you understand, and I'll try to make sure that I ask these questions very carefully because you haven't been present for this entire trial. You have a younger brother. We are not using your younger brother's name today, okay? So we're just going to use the initial G when we talk about your younger brother. So try to remember as best you can that if I ask a question that somehow involves
The judge and the state were also incredibly guarded of, the younger minor child, trying not to use his name, trying to keep him out of this, so that, as much of this trial could not touch his life as possible, given, again, this was a horrific trial and it got a lot of media attention. So I will say this is one of the better state and judges for just having a very clean, very by the book sort of courtroom that doesn't descend into, pulling on heartstrings or emotional arguments. So I have been just really impressed with how they handled this case.
your younger brother, that we're not going to say his name, okay? Can you do that?
Yes, sir.
All right. We'll try to ask those questions very carefully so that we don't get into that issue. But besides your younger brother, G, and yourself, at the time that your brother Timothy Ferguson passed away, who was living at the house in Norton Shores? Besides you and your younger brother, who else was living in the house?
My mother and my little brother, though he was at my grandparents at the time, my step-grandparents.
And obviously your younger brother, if you can put it that way, but your youngest brother is the one that we're not identifying by name. He was living in the house at the time that your next youngest brother, Timothy Ferguson, passed away, correct?
Yes, sir.
And your mother was also living in that house as well.
Yes.
And is she in the courtroom right now?
Yes, sir.
As best you can you kind of point her out or maybe say what she's wearing right now?
Her hair is in 2 braids. She's got, I think that's a black sweatshirt.
I think that's sufficient for the record to reflect the witnesses identified the defendant, Your Honor.
Yeah, the record reflect that.
Now let's back up just a little bit from the time your brother Timothy actually passed away. When did Timothy come to live with you and your mother in that house?
May 27th of 2001.
2001. Was it maybe 2021?
21.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. So in May of 2021, Timothy came to live with you, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And at the time when Timothy came to live with you, besides your...
So he's just an incredibly awkward young man. I did notice, and again, this is where the defense kind of falls apart for Shanda, because you cannot take this man as presented as the mastermind. He's incredibly, timid. He doesn't even look Shanda directly. He kind of peers at her. He doesn't make direct eye contact with even the lawyer. My pause game is on top of it, though. So to make Paul the mastermind, you kind of have to suspend all faculties of reasoning and kind of what your eyes are seeing, how he's presenting. Now, this could be an act. He could be Kaiser Soseing us. But that being said, this is not the usual suspects. So it's very hard to paint this person in the way he is presenting right now as the mastermind of anything. And even the text messages show a sort of, he's very much the submissive person in this role. That doesn't mean he's not the muscle. That doesn't mean that he didn't, terrorize Timothy in his own way. That doesn't take away from his monstrosity. But he was not the, brain of this Pinky and the Brain.
Yourself and G, was there somebody else that was living in the house during that time period?
Other than my mother and half-brother, my stepfather, Adam.
Okay. And your stepfather, Adam, was he married to your mother at that time?
Yes.
And is he actually the father of your younger brother, G?
No.
But your mother is the mother to you and to Timothy and to G, is that right? She's your mother, she's Timothy's mother, she's G's mother, is it better way to put it?
Yes.
Right? Yes. Okay.
Short questions. Don't ask compound questions. He's not a mathologist.
And at some point in time, did something happen to Adam where he wasn't living in the home anymore?
He suffered a stroke in January.
Did he leave the house at that point?
Yes.
When he left the house at that point, then when it became just you, your 2 brothers and your mother living in the home?
Yes, sir.
And when Adam suffered the stroke, was he physically able to do anything to provide any care to either you or to Timothy or to G?
No.
And where did Adam go when he left the house after the stroke?
After the hospital, he went to live with my step-grandparents, my in-laws, in their house in West Olive.
When did the stroke happen?
January.
And from the time the stroke happened, was he ever back in the home in any way?
No.
And the folks that he went to live with were his parents, is that right?
Yes.
And they live in West Olive, down in Ottawa County?
Yeah.
So those would be like your step-grandparents?
Yes.
And they'd be Timothy's step-grandparents as well, is that right?
Yes.
Now, in addition to your younger brothers that we've talked about, do you have any older siblings as well?
Yes.
Who are your older siblings?
My biological brother Nolan, stepsister Chelsea, stepbrother Chris. There's, I don't know exactly how to put it, step brother and sister, Kenzie and Xavier, I suppose would be the terminology.
But biologically speaking, you have an older brother, Nolan, is that
Yes.
correct? And Nolan is how much older than you?
2 years.
2 years older than you.
Yes.
And was there a time where he lived with you at the house in Norton Shores?
No.
Where does Nolan live?
North Carolina.
So Timothy came to live with you, and prior to Timothy coming to live with you, was it just you and G and your mom and stepdad in the house at that time?
Yes.
So you went from 4 people in the house to 5 people in the house in May of 2021.
Yes.
And then back down to 4 people when Adam unfortunately had his stroke in January of 2022.
Yes.
Now, around shortly after the time of the stroke, did there come a point in time where you became involved in having to administer some discipline to your younger brother, to Timothy?
Yes.
We'll talk about some specifics, but we've already had some text messages read, and you've had an opportunity to kind of hear about some of those text messages throughout this, right?
Yes, sir.
And you sent text messages back and forth between yourself and your mother. And we have those text messages from January through the time of your brother's death in July.
Oh, stop the lip clipping thing. Oh, the lizard. Also, that's a whole lot of tongue for licking your lips. Like, ugh. Okay, the weird things that bleh me out, but stop it. You already have dead Manson lamps. You look like a Kubrick extra. Could you please not, also, we do a weird lizard lip thing. Ugh.
Of 2022. Is that your understanding?
Yes, sir.
Oh, no.
At some point in time in February, there's a discussion fairly early in those text messages about blocking Timothy's access to food. Can you describe what was happening at that time and how he was restricted from getting access to food?
He was sneaking food that was not necessary at that time. And
Now, again, you have listened to this young man's kind of vocabulary and the way he structures sentences when it is his own vocabulary. Now, taking food that is not necessary, that sounds like something Shanda would say. That doesn't sound like something that Paul would say on his own. So you can still tell, and whether this is put on or whether this was a genuine, case of him, falling hook, line, and sinker for everything Shanda said, that is kind of a phraseology that I put squarely in the Shanda category. I don't think this young man had any idea the caloric needs of a 15-year-old in order to speculate as to what food was necessary or not. This sounds much more like a Shanda thing, in my opinion.
it was solved by placing locks on the fridge, freezer, and pantry.
And when we say he was sneaking food that
Pantry,
wasn't
you
necessary,
say.
who would make that determination that it wasn't necessary?
Shanda.
And what type of food are we talking about that he would sneak that wasn't necessary?
Sweets or anything he could really get his hands on.
So as early as February, there was restriction, the locks were going on the freezer and the refrigerator, and you said there was also some type of lock on the pantry, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And we've heard a text exchange, but at some point a little bit later, as things are progressing into April, was there a time where Timothy was doing something to get the locks off of the pantry door?
He was pulling them off by hand.
And what were you instructed to do as a result of him pulling the pantry door locks off? Let me ask you this way: were you given some instruction to replace that lock?
Yes,
And who gave you that instruction?
Shanda.
And what was your understanding of why you were locking the pantry back up?
Because he was sneaking food.
Let's talk about your brother Timothy for just a little bit. Did Timothy have some special needs?
Yes.
What was your understanding of what his special needs were?
He was attention deficit hyperactive disorder, as well as autistic. He had speech and motor impairments.
Speech and what type of impairments?
Motor impairments, movement impairments.
Movement impairments?
Yes.
And at the time that he came to live with you, was he supposed to be taking some medication?
Yes.
And did did he stop taking his medication?
Yes.
Why did he stop taking his medication?
Um, could you please reiterate?
Yeah, I guess a better way of saying it is, who made the decision for him to stop taking his medication?
Shanda.
As far as you know, from the time that Timothy came to live with you in May of 2021 in Norton Shores to the time of his death, did you ever see Timothy go to a doctor?
No,
Did Timothy go to school?
not public, no.
How was he schooled?
Home.
When we say homeschool, what would that entail?
At first, it was assignments on a tablet, and then my mother restricted it to where she would print out the assignments, and he would sit downstairs and do them.
So he never went to school and never went to a doctor, as far as you could see.
Yes, sir.
Basically, from January, from the time of the stroke moving forward, was Timothy allowed to even leave the house?
No.
And here is the really big problem with this. If you have ADHD, if you have autism, you're usually on medications that affect your mental health. Whether it be, something to help you with your ADHD, stimulant or non-stimulant, and then anything that they would prescribe to help with autism, whether it's, certain things, maybe an SSRI, you can't cold turkey those. So Shanda is setting him up for failure. She doesn't want to expose that she should not have custody of this child in her at all. She's relinquished her parental rights, basically been told like relinquish or things are going to get ugly in Oklahoma prior to moving to Michigan. But then she also takes him off of these highly, medicines that will highly affect your mood, your behavior, even motor functions with some of these stronger medications that he might have been prescribed. And then to cold turkey take him off of that, there are a lot of things that could have, absolutely have triggered, bad behavior, getting into more things because you have basically cold turkey, taken someone off of very heavy duty, medications. It's absolutely like she wanted him to fail so she would have someone to punish.
When, if ever, was he ever allowed to go outside?
To walk the dogs sometimes?
And when he would walk the dogs, where was it that he would walk the dogs?
In the backyard, out of sight.
Was there ever some physical discipline that was involved with him being outside as well?
Yes.
What was that discipline?
He was made to run up and down the patio stairs.
And those are stairs in the back of your house?
Yes, sir.
Are those visible at all from the front of the house?
No, sir.
Visible to anyone walking by on the street or driving by, anything of that nature?
No, sir.
There are some text messages referenced.
And I really want you to get in this mindset. As someone who struggles with coordination and balance now, one of the scariest things is going up and down the stairs for me, because I know that a fall could lead to me hurting and possibly triggering another site of, nerve involvement. But I also know that my body isn't as strong, isn't as coordinated as it used to be. So things that, a pencil being on the floor or things like that are now a trip hazard for me where they never were before. And I imagine someone behind me yelling, terrorizing me as I have to run up and down stairs. That is the evil that yes, he's awkward. Yes, he doesn't seem like he's got all of the crayons even in the box and sharpened. Maybe a couple light bulbs short of a full 6-pack. But you don't have to be smart to be evil. And he still did all of these things. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that's evil. And he still did it. So I don't give him a whole lot of a pass.
In there where there's a discussion about doing the stairs chasing style. What is that, if you remember?
Following close behind him to ensure he moves faster.
And who would be the one that would chase him if that was taking place?
I had to.
What was, besides, you've talked about some of the special needs that Timothy had when he came to live with you. What was his overall physical appearance, though, when he first came to live with you?
He wasn't skinny, but he wasn't extremely overweight. He had a good amount of chubbiness to him.
So he was a little chubby?
Yes.
Obviously, as we all know, and now the jury's already seen some of the photographs, that went away at some point in time. When did the food restriction on Timothy start, with the locks going on the refrigerator, the freezer, and the pantry, and things of that nature? When did that actually begin?
Sometime in February.
There's been some testimony already about Timothy going on a hunger strike around the time of Adam's stroke. To your knowledge, did Timothy ever go on a hunger strike when Adam had his stroke?
No, sir.
There's also a reference to him going on another hunger strike about 2 weeks before he passed away. Excuse me, did that happen?
No, sir.
The police have indicated that at the time they searched your residence, there were a number of cameras seized, as well as some other items. So let's talk about the cameras first. What was the purpose of the cameras being inside the residence?
To watch Timothy.
And who would be watching Timothy on those cameras?
My mother, or when she couldn't, she had me do so.
And how is it that you would, kind of explain for the jury if you can, how is it that you watched the cameras so you could watch what Timothy was doing?
I would log into the app on my phone, and it would alert me if there was a motion movement.
So you had you had your phone and you had some type of app on there that was connected to those cameras?
Several, yes.
And you said that you were also alerted to movement. Were there motion sensors in the home?
Yes, and the cameras also had that feature as well. They activated on motion.
And what was the restriction on Timothy's movement that would cause those cameras to go off? Where was he limited to?
Could you please reiterate?
Yeah. Where could Timothy go, basically?
Mainly he was restricted to the downstairs area, to a closet downstairs.
Welcome, welcome.
The downstairs area actually contained 2 bedrooms. One was yours and one was G's bedroom, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And there was also a bunk bed that was out in that area.
Okay, he's gonna drive me ever living nuts. I know you're anxious, but I'm gonna need you to keep stop jingling your chain. Although part of me is perversely just happy as a clam that you are in chains like you put your brother in, but you're annoying the ever living snot out of me because you're so fidgety. And see, I fight all the time to not be fidgety on stream, and you're tweaking my fidget gene, and I don't need it.
That I believe
Oh.
that
Squid, this is actually a heartbreaking case. This is one that I have seen other people cover. Basically, Shanda Vander Ark is a woman who is working as a clerk for a judge in the courthouse. In fact, this very courthouse. One day in July, she called 911 because her son, she had 3 boys at home. Paul, here on stand, was her oldest child, kind of 19, working at Applebee's, trying to figure out his life. You had Timothy, who she was not supposed to have custody of, but her ex-husband, because he had autism, hyperactivity, and various other behavioral sort of issues. He was at the end of his rope with Timothy and basically told Shanda that, either you take him or I put him in, foster care. So Shanda took him, even though she had been told and forced to basically relinquish her parental rights due to valid concerns of some CA allegations in Oklahoma. She gets Timothy back, and almost immediately she doesn't put him in school and doesn't take him to the doctor because, again, she's not supposed to have custody. So any sort of outside involvement would alert authorities that she's not supposed to have custody of this child. Now, her current husband that lived in the home as Timothy was dropped off, unfortunately had already had some medical issues and then suffered a pretty severe stroke and had to leave the home. Now, Adam, her husband, seemed to have been somewhat of a limiting factor on her kind of controlling and abusive behavior towards Timothy. Now, Timothy's sort of preoccupation, fixation, kind of one of the things that he really fixated on with his autism was kind of mechanics, taking things apart, putting it back together. So, because he doesn't have any outside schooling, he doesn't have any outside friends, he's been cold turkey withdrawn off of his medication and basically, reduced to basically staying in the basement. He got into things. He, would turn off the pilot light. He, normal things, maybe not so normal things that kids do, but things that are not out of the realm of things that you would logically assume someone who has preoccupations and fixations and no outside stimulus would get into. Now, Shanda believes she is the smartest person in the room. She did, pass the LSTAT, I think, with the highest score of the year that she did. Graduated summa cum laude for law school, and I believe magna cum laude in regular school. Yeah, super de duper. Like if Sarah Boone reached a final form, this would be this chick. Now, Timothy in July was found unresponsive, weighing, I believe, 69 pounds at 15. Now, this judge and this prosecutor are excellent at not showing any of the photos. In fact, all of the photos of Timothy in his emaciated state were printed out and handed in to the jury to have them look at him rather than publishing them. So while this is an awful case, the state and the judge do a wonderful job of respecting the dignity of this victim who's no longer here. But the reason I really like this trial and the reason it's great for the Petty Express is this is one of the few times that you can tell a prosecutor genuinely cannot hide his absolute disgust at Shanda. And he makes a couple comments and it's so noticeable that he absolutely hates every single thing about this woman because of how straight and how dignified he is throughout this entire trial. And it's not raised to the level of, Mr. Yannetti, please refrain from making the comments. It's not, kind of that, but you can tell he reads her for absolute filth. And it's nice to have a prosecutor that you can tell is passionate about getting justice for this most innocent of victims. So, yes, it's not a great trial. Now, this is her co-conspirator. If Shanda was the brains, then Paul was the muscle. So we are going to get into a lot of the things that Paul is doing. Paul made a deal with the state. However, the judge was very clear that regardless of, him testifying in his mother's case and the state, letting the sentencing judge, who is going to be this judge, know that he cooperated in this case. The judge basically said, I am your sentencing judge, and I have made no such promise. And he throws the book at him, rightly so, because regardless of how he presents in his testimony as being socially anxious, maybe having, social anxiety and maybe different sort of learning disabilities, or look, there's something obviously with, his interpersonal skills that aren't there. But regardless of those deficiencies, he still knew right from wrong. And he still chose to go on with his mother's dumbass, crazy, bitchified plan of torture for her child. So again, Shanda wasn't a good mom, and they had a tumultuous childhood, but you will see at sentencing that his older brother and sister turned out to be incredibly, eloquent and thoughtful and considerate, adults. And whatever happened to you in your childhood, whatever traumas you have, does not give you license to go ahead and traumatize someone else.
The defendant indicated was Timothy's bunk bed, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Where did he actually sleep most nights?
In the closet.
And what did you call the closet? Was there a name you used to refer to the closet?
The small room.
And what was in the small room if Timothy was in the small room?
There was a camera monitoring him, even when he slept.
Was there an alarm on the door as well?
Yes, sir.
Some type of motion sensor or alarm?
Motion, vibration, yes.
So we had that on the door and then a camera actually inside the room as well, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And were there times where you were required to watch that camera?
Yes, sir.
And to your knowledge, were there times when your mother was watching that camera as well?
Yes, sir.
Was there a restriction on how much Timothy could move while he was inside that closet?
Could you please reiterate, sir?
Were there any restrictions on his movement inside the closet, or was it he could move around however he wanted inside the closet?
There were restrictions.
What were the restrictions on his movement?
Hands on his head, normally.
So basically, he was required for hours upon end, again, with only being given bread with hot sauce as his main sustenance. Again, sometimes supplemented with, rice made with chicken broth, but for the most part, all the texts only, enumerate. And you know that Shanda, he only ate what Shanda said, unless he stole something, and then they most likely caught him because he was on CCTV camera everywhere he went. So, only on bread and hot sauce. He was forced to, hands on your head, stress positions, arms up, wall sits for hours on end. And if he moved, if he collapsed, if he had any sort of motor issue, a twitch, he was punished more. So they were setting him up to fail so they could punish him. Again, my pure speculation, this was Shanda's favorite reality show. She loved it. This was her all expenses passed to, BravoCon and Real Housewives and everything else. Because she invested, again, as a woman who claims that she was struggling financially, she absolutely invested in Timothy's, incarceration, his, tracking of food, the buying of cameras, the buying of alarms, the buying of leg shackles, the buying of, zip ties. This was not a cheap endeavor, but it was her endeavor in her favorite sport. Again, this is my speculation.
Hands on his head, is that what you indicated?
Yes.
Was that some form of discipline for him?
Yes. On his knees and against the corner of the wall of the room.
No.
And when you say hands on head, I'm going to demonstrate just putting my hands just over my head like this. Is that what he was required to do?
Yes.
He was required to be on his knees as well? Is that a yes?
Yes, sir.
You have to say yes or no, because this is
I
being recorded.
apologize.
You're fine. No, that's fine. Everybody makes that mistake. It's not a problem. And was he monitored to make sure that he was doing those things?
Yes, sir.
And for how long would he have to do these things?
Several hours.
And that was inside his closet, for lack of a better way of putting it, what you referred to as the small room, correct?
Yes, sir.
Were there also times when he was required to stand against the wall?
Yes, sir.
And would that be in the closet, or would that be in other places in the house?
At times it would be upstairs by the back door or on the wall between me and G's room.
And when he would stand against the wall, how long were we talking about that he would be required to do that?
Hours, sometimes overnight.
At some point, did you utilize some type of alarm or alarms on his body to alert you if he was moving?
A vibration detector, yes.
Was there more than one that he was required to wear at times?
At times, yes.
Where were those devices located on his body?
They were normally tied to the back loop of his belt, or the back loop of his pants, I apologize.
And was there something placed on his wrist as well at any point?
Handcuffs, and before that, zip ties, zip cuffs.
When you say zip cuffs, are those put together with zip ties?
Yes.
And and those were designed to restrict what?
Movement,
Of what part of his body?
his hands.
I think there's a text exchange that the jury's heard a couple of times where it's referencing him tightening those zip cuffs on his wrist. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
And so what was happening that caused you to send that text message and had that exchange with your mother about those zip cuffs?
He was complaining about them being too tight.
And what was your mother's response when he was complaining about those being too tight?
To leave them and she'd deal with it after she got home.
So the jury has some clarity in terms of a schedule here. You and your mother worked basically different shifts, for lack of a better way of putting it. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir.
What was your job at that time?
I worked as a dishwasher at Applebee's.
And was that, which Applebee's?
The one in Grand Haven right off the bridge.
What was your normal shift that you would work?
4 to close.
What, at that time, was your mother working as well?
Could you reiterate?
Did your mother have a job as well?
Yes,
Where was your mother working?
as a court scribe, I believe you would call it.
Okay, and where physically was that job?
She moonlights as a court paladin other days. But she did essentially clerk for one of the judges. She was hoping to get into appellate law. Although I do have her latest hearing for a motion for new trial, and I think that might not have been the law she should have picked, because I have thoughts that is a stream, and yeah, some of the BS claims she makes are maddening.
That I remember of, did she say here at this courthouse?
So there was a time she worked at the Muskegon County Courthouse?
Yes,
Do you remember a time when she worked in a northern county at a courthouse as well?
I believe so, yes.
And what was her normal hours that she would work?
6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
So would it be fair to say that you two are not together in the house very often?
Yes,
So whose responsibility was it to keep an eye on Timothy if she was not in the house?
mine.
And vice versa, like if you were not in the home, who would take the responsibility of watching Timothy at that point in time?
She would.
At the small room that you've described, at some point in time, there was a tarp placed in there, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And what was the reason there was a tarp placed in that room?
Due to Timothy's bladder problems, Shanda didn't want him urinating on the floor.
Would that be something that he would?
And this is a sad but documented sort of cycle that because of trauma, because of the lack of food and, the fear and all of that, children that are experiencing a home life like this will have more accidents, which will then enrage the parent or caregiver and, start the cycle all over again. So, because of all of the factors that Timothy was dealing with, it doesn't take a rocket science or a doctorologist to realize that your body is going to manifest this trauma in different ways. And a lot of time having incontinence or, regression of, toileting behaviors, things like that are very common when you're dealing with a home life like this. And unfortunately, it is a terrible cycle because the more the caregiver or the parent, uh, is aggressive about this particular topic, the more that there's stress placed on that particular issue, and it becomes a vicious cycle. It's very, very terrible and sad. And these are things that are somewhat unfortunately common in these type of cases where the child has normal toilet training sort of behaviors when they are first introduced either back to with their family or, given back to the, bad parent or the foster care. And then they have this instant regression or a very quick regression into toileting and potty issues. It's in fact one of the things that I had to learn about when I worked at the, aquatic care facility as a, technically a, mandatory reporter by statute. I had to know these signs. So if we had a younger patient or someone come in that was exhibiting some of these, I would have to make a note in the chart and then let, higher ups in the chain of command know, because this is something that we absolutely, are required to let law enforcement and other facilities know. So I'm not a doctorologist, I'm not a therapistologist, but these are things that I have learned on my journey through life, and I figured I'd share them with you.
Do?
Yes,
Did he wear some type of adult diaper?
adult diaper, yes.
And let me ask it this way: if Timothy had to go to the bathroom, how would he go to the bathroom?
He would have to ask and he would be timed,
And who would do the timing?
whichever one of us was there.
So Mason has to ask permission to go to the bathroom.
Yes, sir.
And what time was he allowed to go to the bathroom?
For urinating, it was a minute. For
You can say the word, it's okay.
taking a poop, it was 2 minutes.
And who set those time limits?
Shanda.
Again, I want you to think about this more along or through the lens of this is her favorite game show. She is wanting him to fail. She is wanting to be able to punish or come up with some new torture when he, doesn't, he takes too long to pee or he doesn't poop. And she had a camera in the bathroom. Again, to, monitor when he was given these ice cold baths, fully nude, her 15-year-old child, also to monitor him using the restroom, using the facilities. Again, the levels, each layer is worse and more monstrous than the rest. She is, in fact, a stinking ogre onion. I mean, and I wouldn't even do Shrek that dirty, but she does make ogre look good. Well, gross. I mean, she makes Swamp Donkey look, ugh.
We've seen a lot of text messages and references to hot sauce and hot sauce retrieved from the home. At some point in time, were you asked to start feeding him bread with hot sauce on it?
Yes.
And who asked you to do that?
Shanda.
Why were you giving him bread with hot sauce on it?
Because he was supposedly misbehaving.
And how would you, describe?
And this isn't like your Texas Pete or your Tapatio. This is something with ghost chilies, and it's one of the most, again, think Runkle chili, okay? Not, over here, I get heartburn with Monterey Jack. No, this is, Runkle level of hot sauce. And the regime was to saturate pieces of bread with this hot sauce. He would have to wait 30 minutes, keep that down. So if he got sick, if his stomach rejected this, he was in more trouble. He was given more slices of bread. And when that 30 minutes was over, he could maybe have more slices of bread without the hot sauce. Again, she wanted to control every bit of the misery that this child had to walk through.
For the jury, what you would do to do that and to make him eat the bread with hot sauce?
I would put it on bread, have him stand in the kitchen area near the back door and watch him eat, until he finished.
And was he required to eat it until it was all gone?
Yes, sir.
Did it ever look like he wanted to eat the bread with hot sauce?
No.
Were there times where you were told that he could have something besides bread with hot sauce on it if he ate the bread with hot sauce first?
Regular bread, yes.
So he had to eat that bread with hot sauce first, and then he could have some regular bread.
Yes.
Did he have to wait a period of time before he could eat the regular bread, though?
Yes, sir.
What, do you remember about what that was, about how long?
30 minutes?
With taking out the bread out of the equation, was hot sauce used in some other fashion as a form of discipline for him?
It was poured directly into his mouth.
And who would do that?
Okay, here is Shanda. This is my speculation on Shanda's grand plan. Now, Shanda was going to claim that my husband had a stroke. I couldn't remember anything. This was all Paul. This was all Paul. And if Paul had presented in any capable presentation, anything other than this, I think if Paul had been at any way, able to more effectively communicate, that might have been a good plan. I do think that Shanda was setting Paul up as a patsy this entire time. But I think that Shanda didn't realize how incredibly unlikable, how incredibly unfathomable it is that Paul was the mastermind, given how he presents and how she will present. And then how no one's going to buy this. Again, no one's going to buy her story. But in her mind, she had a foolproof plan. Paul he's unsettling. He doesn't make direct eye contact. He looks away. He darts. He's fidgety. So, in her mind, who are you going to believe? A woman who, despite all odds, put herself through school, got this job, clerking for the court, or this obviously socially awkward and generally off-putting, young man who doesn't make direct eye contact. She just didn't realize that no one was ever going to buy Paul as the mastermind of anything. And I'm not going to reiterate.
That?
And have a great
me
lunch.
or Shanda, me under her orders.
And it's just like what you sound like? How did you do that?
Had him open his mouth and poured it in.
There's some text messages. Do you recall a text message you exchanged with your mother in, I believe it's around April or so, where you've alerted her to the fact that he's eaten some part of a burger?
Yes.
Do you recall that?
Yes.
What was it? What part of the burger is it that he ate?
Just the crust.
And what was your mother's response when you told her that he had eaten the crust of that burger?
Make him throw it up.
Did you try to do that?
I tried at first, yes.
How did you try to do that?
Putting a finger into his mouth as instructed to the back of his throat to induce vomiting.
So who gave you the instruction to put your finger in the back of his throat?
Shanda?
We don't see a text message to that effect. Were you two also communicating by camera as well?
Yes.
The cameras had was it a two-way capability, basically? You
Yes.
could talk to the camera or
You
somebody
could
on
talk
the camera?
and they could hear. At certain times, it could be activated.
Was there ever any other time where she instructed you to make Timothy throw up?
Yes.
About how many times did she instruct you to do that?
3 or 4.
Just a note, we know how this goes down. We know that she's adjudicated guilty and that she's never getting out. But defense attorneys, if your client is a major thunder cunt, if she is the type of person that everyone would like to throw rotten tomatoes at, possibly don't have her dressed up as, well, again, possibly either evil Leia or, demonic Land O'Lakes girl. And then don't have her making stupid little faces and all of this. Because you know what a jury's not going to like? And I can tell you because I'm guessing as a human, we kind of all similarly feel this way. You looking like you're doing a comedy facial reaction after seeing pictures of your emaciated son, and then looking at Paul on on the witness stand and realizing he is not the mastermind of anything. So you making those stupid little faces didn't engender any sympathy in the jury. And when she gets on stand, we will probably get there. Probably not today, but by tomorrow or by next, we should be on to her. You are going to tell that she is looking over at the jury and she is not finding one friendly face when she gets to cross. Now, during her, her initial direct, I think that she might have seen a couple little whiffs of some like, okay, maybe I could see this. Once we get to cross-examination with the state's attorney, you can tell that she realizes not one person is on her side.
At some point in time, was there a form of discipline introduced that involved you placing Timothy in a cold tub?
Yes.
And what was the mechanism for that? How did you do that?
Clog the tub, plug it, turn on the water, and take the ice that was in our ice maker upstairs and put it in, and have him get in.
Initially, how long was he supposed to sit in the cold water?
30 minutes.
30 minutes? And that, when we say cold water, we actually mean water with ice cubes in it? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
And how often, when did that start in relation to when Timothy died, if you remember?
I do not remember the exacts.
And do you know about how many times you did that up until the day before Timothy died?
Before the day that Timothy died?
The day before Timothy died, we'll get to that in just a moment, and I believe that.
3, then.
So you remember doing it 3 times before the day before Timothy died?
Yes.
And who would direct you to put him in the ice bath?
Shanda.
Was there some type of camera in the bathroom as well?
Yes, on the counter.
Was that camera monitored by somebody if you were in the bathtub, or if you were in the bathroom with Timothy?
Shanda.
Were you instructed to stay in the bathroom with Timothy when he was in the tub?
Yes.
Why?
To ensure that he couldn't get comfortable or try to turn the water hot.
Think about that statement. So Timothy's already severely malnourished with zero body fat. His body is already attacking his muscles and ligaments, stealing nutrients from vital organs to keep his brain functional. He has absolutely no effective barrier from the cold. And then Shanda wants to keep eyes on him so that he's not getting comfortable, that he is in what amounts to a stress position while in this tub. And she is monitoring that. I mean, again, the deeper you go into it, the more you take, this sort of real logical, real factual look at what she did, it just becomes more and more monstrous.
And what would you, if you tried to move around, what were you instructed to do?
I don't quite understand.
If you said that you were supposed to make sure that he stayed uncomfortable, how were you supposed to make him uncomfortable in an ice bath?
Put his body at an odd angle that was not a comfortable position to be in.
When he was in the tub, would he try to rest his head somewhere?
On his shoulder, yes, or the lip of the tub.
Was that allowed?
No.
I know this is difficult for you, Paul, and you and I have had a number of conversations about this matter. But I need you to look at a text message that you sent to your mother. It's got a photo that you took of your brother. You remember sending that text message?
Yes, sir.
For the record, this is People's 36A. This has been previously shown to the jury. Who took that photo of your brother?
Me?
And you sent it to your mother?
Yes, sir.
Why did you send it to your mother?
Because I was concerned with how thin he was.
That photo was taken on, do you remember what the date was?
Not the exact, no.
If your phone indicated it was June 13th, you'd have no reason to dispute that.
No, sir.
And you just became, again, the reason you sent it to your mother was why?
Because I was concerned about how thin he was.
Do you remember what your mother told you to give him after you sent her that photograph?
Bread?
And then is there a reference to bread and some peanut butter?
Yes.
So at that point, your brother's very skinny, right? Was he eating regular meals at that point?
No.
Were you still administering the hot sauce on the bread as a form of punishment for him during that time period?
Yes.
And did that continue all the way up until the time of his death?
Yes.
Did he ever eat any normal type of meal leading up to his death after you took that photo and sent it to your mother?
That day I made him an actual real meal, an actual peanut butter and jelly sandwich, as well as scrambled some eggs and put cheese in them.
Did you tell your mother you had made that meal for him?
No, sir,
Why not?
because I didn't want her to be upset with me.
And the sad thing, unfortunately, is even in this act of kindness, Timothy probably got sick after he ate this. When you've gone prolonged periods of time without a lot of food, your first instinct, and goodness knows if I was Timothy, a young boy who had been denied food for so long, you tend to want to really wolf it down quite quickly, and it shocks your system quite a lot. Your stomach's like, wait, what's food? Why are we having food? And it can make you pretty sick. So even this, act of kindness, you know, might have led to more, digestive and issues for Timothy because of the prolonged, lack of food and control of the food that they had. It's just incredibly, and again, Paul is never going to come off as the person that sat back and thought of these things. He doesn't ever look at his mother directly. He takes very short, cutting glances, and then as soon as he looks back, he has incredible tells of even more anxiety, even more fidgetiness. Usually, right after he does the corner look at his mom, is when he comes back and does the lizard lip thing. And if I believed in bodyology, I would say that's a self-comfort movement. I've never studied bodyology or body, language science or whatever it is. But it definitely is very apparent that he is, he bought whatever Shanda said, hook, line, and sinker. And when he did have moments of clarity, it still wasn't motivational enough to get his brother real help. He was conscious of the fact that he was deathly skinny, and besides talking to Shanda, he did nothing more. And he had opportunities. He could have told someone at Applebee's. He could have picked up the phone. He could have called his dad. He could have called social services, but he didn't.
Let's move up to the day before your brother passed away. Do you remember the day before your brother died?
He was unresponsive when I was told to get him up.
So you were given some instructions to wake him up in the morning?
Yes,
Was your mother already at work?
yes,
Were the cameras activated at that point, though?
yes.
So your responsibility when you had to go wake him up was what? Just to do what? To get him up?
Just wake him up, which normally wasn't difficult before then.
And this is the day before he passed away, but was it difficult on that day?
Very.
Did you scream at him and yell at him to get him to try to wake up?
Yes.
And at some point were you instructed to do something with him because he wouldn't wake up?
Put him in an ice bath.
And did you do that?
Yes.
Was he able to, where was he sleeping that night?
Closet.
So when you went to wake him up and he was unresponsive, was he still in the closet?
Yes.
How did you get him from the closet to the bathroom with the,
I
Ice
had
bath.
to drag him.
he didn't stand on his own?
He couldn't, no.
Didn't walk on his own? Is that a, is that
No.
Was he even talking at that point?
No.
You remember about what time it was that you put him in the ice bath?
Not exactly, no.
If the text message indicated it was around 2 o'clock, does that sound about right?
Yes.
What time did you have to leave for work that particular day?
I was supposed to be at work at 4, but unfortunately, due to a flat tire on my e-bike, I had to wait till 6 for my mother to get home and drive me to work.
So from 2 to 6 until your mother got home, you were home with Timothy, is that right?
Yes,
And where was Timothy that entire time that you were home with him?
in the bath.
In the ice bath? Was your
Yes.
mother giving you instructions on what to do with him while he was in that tub then, at that point in time?
Yes, sir.
What was she telling you to do?
Make him uncomfortable, and at one point she had me heat up a pizza roll to see if he would be responsive to enticement.
Yeah, again, just when you think that this thunder cunt can't get any more cunty, and yeah, I know I'm before 3 hours, but there is no other word that describes this heifer. No, he didn't heat it up. You will find out when Shanda testifies, and I don't know why, but I need rage to clean, so a therapist would have a field day, but I will put on Shanda's testimony to help me clean before company comes over. Look, I get a lot of shit clean, but I'm also then in a terrible mood. So I really need to rethink this whole life strategy. That being said, when Shanda's testimony comes up, you will find out that she actually texted Paul that you didn't need to heat up the pizza roll. She was just trying to, again, on her never-ending quest to prove that Timothy was faking, his malnutrition, his looking like a skeleton, him looking like a survivor of some of the atrocities around the world. No, he was faking all that to, try to wrestle control from him or from her. He was doing all of this out of defiance and bad behavior, not, just his body was breaking down. So she told Paul that, basically tell Timothy that you can get, some pizza rolls if you get up and be responsive. But it was only going to be 1 or 2, and she didn't care whether he heated them or not. So, again, every layer is worse. And these two are right where they belong. In prison, under the prison would be my choice, allegedly, in Minecraft. But they are exactly where they belong for what they did to this child.
Actually do that?
Yes.
And what did you, so describe for the jury exactly what you did with that pizza roll with Timothy in the tub.
I held it close, and when he responded, as per instruction, I was to pull it away from him.
So did you actually do this?
Yes.
So you actually held a pizza roll in front of him to see if he would respond? Is that yes?
Yes, sir.
I know it's difficult. Did he?
All right, I'm calling an executive choice. We need a puppy kitten break because your thoughts are probably like mine, probably like the state's attorney. Did you actually effing do this, you disgusting little cretin?
When the world feels like a dumpster dive and humans forget how to thrive, take a break, just you and me, with a puppy and kitten, wild and free. Paws and purrs, let's drift away to a land where tails wag and play. No more noise, just gentle muse in our furry four-legged cruise.
Yes. But he actually did this. Again, he knows right from wrong. He may have other issues that limit his, cognitive ability, but Paul knew right from wrong. And the fact that he can't look anyone in the freaking eyes as they talk about this, you know you're wrong. I don't give you any passes.
Respond?
Yes, sir.
And what did you do when he tried to respond?
I had to, or as I was told, I pulled it away.
So we didn't get to eat the pizza roll.
No.
Do you recall while Timothy was in the tub, an exchange where your mother inquired about pouring hot sauce on his private parts?
I do, yes.
Did you do that?
No.
Now, I'm going to say this is the only time that Paul lied. I, again, am not a behaviorologist. I am not Clarice Starling, nor am I Hannibal Lecter. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I know and because of and ipso facto. But what I will say is there is nothing that Shanda escalated to that was not proven that she did. Now, this is so beyond the pale that I think it is the one thing that they're both denying. But there was no limiting factor between Paul and Shanda. There was no one pumping the brakes. So I absolutely believe that they did this. In my speculation, I don't think there were any limiting factors. The brakes were fully and completely off of this, tragedy waiting to happen. This was the last day of Timothy's life. He had already been in an ice bath for 6 hours. And I have absolutely no doubt that if Shanda told him to do this, it was done. But that's my speculation. Again, they didn't find video evidence of this. This is my speculation. But I don't think that there was any limiting principle at this point that would have stopped Shanda from doing whatever crazy thing she had thought of. I mean, she was truly and wholly without limits at this point, at least in my opinion.
That was beyond cruel, as everything else was.
So you put him in the tub around 2. Did your mom come home at 6?
Yes,
And when your mom gets home at 6, did you go to work at that point in time?
she drove me to work, yes.
And was Timothy still in the tub at that point in time?
Yes,
So you and your mom drove to Grand Haven to drop you off at work, and Timothy's just in the tub?
yes, sir.
Was he even physically able to move around at that point in time?
No,
Do you recall getting a text message from your mother around 11:30 or so that night while you were at work?
yes.
And
Though I saw it later than that because I was busy.
so you received the text message, but you didn't actually read it until a little bit later than it was received.
Yes, sir.
And what did you understand from that text message from your mother about where Timothy had been up until the time you were at work at 11:30 at night?
Still in the tub.
So that's 9 hours plus from the time that you first put him in the tub at 2 o'clock?
Yes.
Don't look all guilty. I hope you choke on that guilt. I hope it keeps you awake at night. I don't feel sorry that you're now feeling the full weight of what you did because you decided that your mom was God. You are a grown-ass man. You could have been a protection for your brother, but you chose to be a bully. And I hope you realize that you're not going to be the biggest man in prison, so I hope you don't mind standing in stress positions or getting ice cold showers or anything else, because I do kind of know that, people in prison don't generally like people who hurt children. They generally do not have very much fun.
When you got home, do you remember about what time you got home that night?
1 o'clock?
How did you get home? Did somebody give you a ride?
Yes. A
So your-
coworker.
Did your mom didn't pick you up that night, did she?
No.
When you got home at 1 o'clock, did you go to your bedroom?
Yes.
Downstairs in the basement area, the lower level?
Yes, sir.
Did you see Timothy at all?
No.
Did you check on him at all?
No.
When did you next become aware that something was happening with Timothy?
The next morning,
And what happened?
I had had to get up early so that Shanda could drive me to the premises area of work. And I'd gone to the laundry room to get a pair of clean socks and was then made aware that he was not breathing
And where was he at that point in time?
in the closet.
And who made you aware that he wasn't breathing?
Shanda,
Was he on his bunk bed?
no,
Was he ever on his bunk bed from the time that he was in that small closet until the time the police arrived?
No.
If you know, do you know how much time passed from the time that you first became aware he wasn't breathing until 911 was called?
18 minutes?
And during that 18 minutes, did you tell your mother or ask your mother if you were going to call 911?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember what she said?
No?
It
She
was
said no.
caught on camera.
Sorry, that was my bad.
I'm sorry, good. Let's clarify that. Do you remember what your mother said when you asked her if we should call 911?
She said no.
So you didn't call 911 at that time?
No.
During that time period, what were you doing?
I was attempting to resuscitate, though it was too late.
At the time when he came out of the small room, how did he get out of the small room at that point? How did his body actually come out of the small room?
He was removed.
By who?
Shanda, and I believe I helped a bit.
What was he wearing when he came out of the room?
Nothing but an adult diaper.
Okay, so this is significant because if you remember earlier in the stream when I said that there was a time period between when they discovered Timothy no longer responsive or breathing and when they called 911. Now, during this brief period of time, Shanda got Paul to get, a pair of his jeans and a big hoodie so they could try to pull off this, he was on a hunger strike, he was wearing baggy clothes. I didn't really realize how thin he had gotten until last night. I tried to help him. This is something that he's done before. So these were all things that in, their little stupid criminal brains thought was going to sell this story.
When did you put clothes on him?
Yes,
Who put the clothes on him?
both me and Shanda, per Shanda's request, order, however you'd like to phrase it.
So before he was wearing the diaper, but you put the clothes on him while he's unresponsive outside of the small room.
Yes.
And do you remember what clothes you put on him?
A hoodie, a pair of my jeans, and Shanda had me remove my belt and put it on him
Did she tell you why she wanted you to take the belt off and put it on?
because the pants were too big.
And they would have gotten away with it if they hadn't forgotten that this was all going on the iCloud for all of the, Timothy surveillance
At some point,
CCTV
the
cameras
911
in the
is actually
basement.
called, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, before 911 was called, and I guess let me ask you this, who actually called 911?
Me.
But did Shanda actually talk to the 911 folks, if you remember?
Not that I remember of, no.
Before 911 is called, was there some discussion about a hunger strike?
Yes.
What was the discussion about the hunger strike at that point?
Shanda said to say that he'd gone on a hunger strike.
Or
And
was
that
it
we
who was
found
she-
him on the bed.
Seems
dead.
obvious, but who was she referring to?
Timothy.
And said that he was found on the bed?
Yes, the bed.
So 911 comes at that point, and then the police are also involved, is that right?
Yes, sir.
At some point in time, did the police leave you guys alone in the home
Yes.
later that night?
Yes.
And when that happened, did Shanda do anything with any of the items in the house?
She disposed of evidence.
What did she dispose of?
Vibration detectors, a camera upstairs that was not confiscated. She broke the memory chip that was inside into 4 pieces and threw them out the window as we were driving.
Brian
to Grandma
Higgins
and
has a
Grandpa Vander
girlfriend.
Ark's.
So you went down to Grandma Vander Ark's that night,
Yes,
and she disposed of evidence on the way down to?
yes, and the vibration alarms were thrown into a trash can where
Heather May said, "Good morning. Just heartbroken that Timothy went through such horrific abuse at the hands of his mother and brother. There are no words for the mother or brother." Squid asked about the dad. As far as I know, and sorry, Squid, I thought I'd answered that, but I guess brain fart. As far as I know, there have been no charges ever, against the father, the biological father in this case. There's also been, he did not appear at any of the trial as far as I've been able to research, and he has never spoken either publicly or on like a stream or, with mainstream or, new kind of new media about anything about this case. I haven't dug deeply into the sort of biological father because I do know that there are a lot of, it seems like a very chaotic family situation, which might have scores of other minor children. So there's a lot of information that would probably be sealed in those particular cases because it did involve younger children. But there's also, I think, currently some young minor children as well. So I tend not to dig deeply into cases where there's still minor children, just because there's not a lot to know beyond speculation because those files are generally sealed. But also, it's just not something that I'm generally comfortable putting out there, knowing how contentious and heartbreaking family law can be. That being said, from the scant details that were known, Shanda was asked to relinquish all parental rights to not only Paul and Timothy, but Timothy's older brother and Paul's older brother, Noland, and I believe her daughter Millie as well. So there were, a lot of children in that house where Shanda was basically said, "Hey, you need to relinquish your rights or we're going to go after you." That being said, I don't know what the hell she did, but it takes a hell of a lot for children's services to want to terminate parental rights, especially for a woman. So Timothy should have never been in her care. Paul should have never been anywhere near her. Paul moved in with Shanda when he was kicked out of his father's home after he turned 18 and didn't want to get a job, didn't want to kind of improve himself. He was out of high school, so he didn't get a job. He didn't start paying rent. He was told to leave. And Paul went to Shanda's first. And then after a period of time, the father called Shanda about Timothy, about his behaviors, about his, destructiveness. Basically, he was at the end of his tether, and it was either Shanda take him or he would go into foster care. And I know there are foster care horror stories, but I don't think I've heard horrific. I think he would have been better off in foster care, even knowing the horrors and terrors that are involved in that. You know, Mr. President, I know you probably don't watch me. You're too busy watching Fox News. But if you could do an overhaul, a Doge style overhaul and audit of our child, services in each state, because they're doing a really, crap spackle job, if you have my opinion. So if we could do an audit and get the people that aren't doing anything to protect children out of there, get all of the policies that don't help children out of there, streamline it, and make sure that we are protecting our nation's children, that would be awesome. I mean, as much as I care about all the other stuff and the Gulf of Mexico, not at all, or the Gulf of America, or the Bay of Doritos, I don't care. But I would really appreciate if we could get an overhaul of the children's services in every state and make them fit for purpose.
and stuffed in a plastic bag and thrown into a trash can at the Chick-fil-A near our house.
When you say the vibration alarms, are you talking about the sensors that were on the doors?
Yes,
Was one of those the sensor that was on the small room door?
yes.
Yeah, that too. But I'm not holding my breath for that one anymore. I'd get hypoxic.
Mr. Ferguson, we've had you testified about some of the alarms that were placed on Timothy's body. Did those alarms, what would those alarms do? I mean, how would they make noise or alert people?
A loud beeping.
Was that something you could hear if you were like, close to the alarms?
Yes, through solid wall even.
And did Timothy have some ear problems?
Yes,
What were-
sensitive hearing,
He had sensitive hearing?
and had tubes implanted at one point.
To your knowledge, was Shanda aware that he had these hearing problems and the tubes in his ears?
And Shanda was there at the surgery where Timothy got these tubes placed in his ear, and she was cautioned that, he would react negatively. He would not enjoy loud sounds, that he had incredibly sensitive hearing, and that this would be, kind of a hypersensitivity that he would have. I have hypersensitivities to uh, all of the stimulus as well. There are days where, a stiff breeze is enough to cause converse or to cause pain you wouldn't think a breeze would cause, or, having the fan light on or having bright lights. There's a reason I opted for a little bit more money to get these to do the magical darkening thing, my new glasses, when you go outside, because bright lights are a thing for me. So I know how incredibly difficult it is for me to deal with all of the hypersensitivities, and to imagine a 15-year-old boy who's being terrorized by his mother and his brother in a place where he's supposed to feel safe and loved and comforted. I mean, all of my sensitivities and all of this has kicked my butt. And you know, I was older when this happened to me. I, have some coping skills, and it still knocked me for a daggone loop for 4 years. So to have a child who is innocent, who doesn't know what's going on, who may not be able to process or communicate, his feelings and his needs and get help, there is a reason I do these, even though they bother the snot out of Hagatha. Monsters like Shanda, she doesn't care that she's in prison. She thinks she's going to find a way out. So does Sarah Boone. But what they do care about is people naming and shaming them. If you've noticed, between Lori Vallow Dorkbell, Sarah Boone, and this woman, they mention YouTube a whole hell of a lot, and the media a whole hell of a lot, and the narrative a whole hell of a lot. But you know who they never freaking mention in their, babbling of I deserve justice bullshit? They never talk about their victims. They never seem to be bothered about the crime. And Sarah, your crime wasn't obscure. Your crime wasn't like a footnote in some ancient history. But that's a whole other story. The problem is with these people, what really works for them, what really bothers them, is people calling them out on their bullshit, and they can't respond back. They can't set the record straight, run the record back. Can I get that record replayed Daryl Brooks style? They can't add their spin to it. So the truth is getting out that is not managed by their narrative, by their lens, by their control. That's why I do these streams. And thank you guys for hanging out and finding my tribe who likes dark humor, calling out monsters, the occasional curse word, and, well, again, just calling out monsters. But we can do it in a sassy way and, take them down with snark and wit and still have the respect for this absolutely innocent victim.
Very much so.
And again, to your knowledge, was it indicated to you that the alarms were a form of punishment for him, as if they went off?
Heather May, we will actually watch the older brother and sister at the victim impact statements. I believe, and I do have a shortened version of just their two victim impact statements, not with the sentencing. And I have that on the video. I believe it's in the Shanda Vander Ark playlist, but it was when she was first asking for a new hearing. And they were the most eloquent, some of the most eloquent victim impact statements that I've ever seen or, witnessed. They were kind, they were emotionally, mature adults who had been wounded by this terrible thing that happened to them. But they did amazing as tributes to their brother, as letting us know who Timothy was when he wasn't being terrorized. Because Timothy's story was the little boy who was smiling and who we will learn about in victim impact statements, and not the, skeleton that she left, that was left after she cared for him.
They would be harmful to him and
Painful.
distracting to him.
I believe so.
And we talked about the being made to stand against the wall. Was he made to do something else against the wall as a form of punishment as well?
Wall sits.
And wall sits, for the jurors that might not be aware, is what, basically?
Awesome sauce.
Back pressed against the wall, sitting with your, crouched with your legs as though you're sitting in a chair.
But nothing to support your weight on your
No,
buttocks or your upper thigh area.
no.
And at some point, he was forced to do that as well. I have no further questions.
Before you begin, Mr., I think it's a good time to take a longer afternoon break. So,
And we're actually going to break here because Mr. Mo, again, on the saga of let's fix the bathroom and the subflooring and all of that, has asked that he be able to do some construction-y stuff that makes a little bit more noise. And since he has graciously kept the boys out of my hair for these past 2 hours and the hour it takes me to do Mornings with Mo, I am going to hop off of here. Let me see who I can redirect you to. I believe that Baker started a new trial, so I might pop you on over to Baker because, he does kind of the same thing I do with his own spin. He does get snarky at some time and, make sure, oh, this is good. Now, I will tell you guys that I do plan to cover this trial after Shanda. If there's not another trial. So we will be watching this particular trial that he is watching again, but it's got STDs. It's got, a mom on trial for allegedly coaching and or pushing her son to take out the woman that allegedly gave him the clap. Yes. And it's a retrial because a juror in the first trial of this woman was doing a crossword puzzle and not paying attention to the testimony. So this is a retrial. So it's got all the crazy, and I think it'll be a great ride on the Petty Express. But Baker's covering it while it's current. So, it might take us a little bit, but we're definitely going to get there. And that way you guys can kind of see it. And you'll be like, oh, Mo, wait for this to happen. Oh, no, you can't. Oh, my gosh, it's going to be so cringe-hilarious. So I can't wait to get to this trial. But let's give, Timothy the time that he needs, and I will talk at you later. Thank you for joining me. Do all of the, YouTube-y things that all the YouTubers ask you to do. On a special note, if you haven't seen one of your creators that you really like in a while, it might be that YouTube has decided to unsubscribe you because it knows better. Just do, every once in a while, check and make sure you're still subbed to all of your favorite creators because sometimes YouTube thinks it knows better. I will see you all tomorrow with Mornings with Mo, and I might, if construction doesn't take too long, see if I can set up my first craft videos and stream. But if construction goes long, that will maybe be a next week project. You never know here. Mr. Mo is a man of many talents, and right now he's needed in the construction-y world and not the help Mo set up things for her craft stream world. So I will see you guys later. Thank you so much for joining me. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, but have a sassy mouth and carry a can of bitch fire because there are Shandas in this world that, you know, we might not be good at the old fisticuffs, and we're not allegedly supposed to even do that. I'm not a fan, but I was given a sassy mouth, and I'm gonna use it to fight evil. Bye, you guys.